Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the June 24th council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Minor.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Tobin.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we will move to the approval of the minutes from the June 10th council meeting. I hope everyone's had time to read these minutes over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta
Second.
and second by Mr. Balestria. Are there any changes, amendments, or deletions to these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? These minutes have been approved as written. At this time, does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Mano.
I received a phone call from Mr. Goldrick, who is on the board of directors of the YMCA in Lyndhurst, and they are looking for somebody to add to their board. They're going to expand the facility, and they want to expand their board of directors. So if anybody is interested in speaking with him about that position, see me after the meeting. I got a name and phone number for you to call. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple things I just would like to say. Give my thanks to all of City Hall, Sean and his team, the mayor's office, police, fire service, and all of our volunteers for very successful Unity Days. I'm sure many of you will report on it, but the fireworks, Mayor, were also outstanding. So I've heard a lot of good feedback. So I wanted to pass that along. And also wish my sincere condolences to the Kramer family on the loss of Fred. The city has truly lost a friend and a wealth of knowledge. So my condolences to them.
Mike. Took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to comment on both of those, so thank you. I do have a question for the mayor. In honor of Fred, is there a way that we possibly can do a tree in his memory in one of our parks? Sure. Like we did for Larry. Okay, thank you. All right, anything further from council? We will now report with, do reports starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to echo both comments from Mr. Balestria. Despite the extremely hot weather this past weekend, I think it was a great success. Unity Days was, I think, a very safe and inviting atmosphere for our residents. So I want to thank police and fire department and the service department for creating that atmosphere. It was a great community event. And I really want to thank all the volunteers who helped. Couldn't have done it. Wasn't possible without the volunteers who really did a lot of hard work in some tough circumstances in that weather, in that heat. So I want to thank everybody who helped. It was a great weekend. And again, just to echo Mr. Balestria's thoughts on Mr. Kramer, he was a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals from 1971 to 83, and then again from 91 to present. And he served as the chair of that board for many decades. And he was a dedicated member of the community. He was a wealth of knowledge and a great resource for me as mayor. So I was lucky enough to call him a colleague and a friend. So I just want to wish the Kramer's sincere condolences. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any comments or questions for the mayor? Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Director of Finance, Mrs. Scully.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. And welcome back. And then I'm going to now turn this over to department directors. Is there any director this evening that would like to speak? Okay, all right, thank you. We will now move to reports of committees, commissions, and boards, beginning with the Building Committee. Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have a report.
Thank you. Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have a report.
Okay. Thank you. Legislative Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. No report.
Public Works and Service, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Public Works and Services Committee met on June the 12th to discuss the AECom reports. Those were the dye testing reports. The minutes will be forthcoming to council. GPD was going to submit to the committee a financial quote for the next phase, which we determined to be whether or not the positive dye testing on the properties that were positive are actually on the public side or the private side. So Mr. CUNY is going to get us some quotes on finances, and most likely we'll have to have a meeting over the summer. I would imagine sometime in July, hopefully, and and I'll follow up with council at that point. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Balestrea? Okay. Recreation and Parks, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We just completed Unity Days weekend. Although the weather proved to be challenging, the time spent with friends and neighbors is a benefit to our community. A special thanks to all the volunteers and workers who spent their time to make this event safe and successful. We could not have done it without all their help. Thank you all for our residents and friends who came out to help build the community while enjoying great food, entertainment, and fireworks. Beginning July 8th, Aquatic Center passes will be reduced in price for the remainder of the season. For Mayfield Heights residents, a family pass will cost $125, an individual pass will cost $55, and a senior pass will cost $30. On Saturday, July 13th, from 5:30 to 8:30, in conjunction with Olivia's Dream, we will be holding a Christmas in July party at the Aquatic Center. The band Bridget's Cross will be playing while Rick Smith Jr., Jungle Bob Animal Show, and a juggler will be entertaining on the pool deck. Ducks will be sold for the popular duck races in the pool, plus more fun. All toys and proceeds benefit Olivia's Dream and the City of Mayfield Heights Season of Giving program at the holidays. The entrance fee will be $5 for adults and free for kids with a donation of a new toy that is $5 or greater value. For more information, watch for a post on social media or call the Recreation Department. That's my report.
Mr. Mano, what was the date of Olivia's Dream? What was the date of the event?
The date is July 8th.
July 8th. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? Oh,
I'm sorry, I
stand
was wrong.
corrected.
It's the 13th.
July 13th. Okay, thank you.
Not only can't I hear, I can't see either, so what am I gonna do?
Okay.
Don't get
Do
old.
you have your things?
I forget it.
Okay,
The buzzing makes me nuts.
okay.
Okay.
All right. We will move to Safety and Transportation, Ms. Talbot.
We had no reason to meet. There was no report.
Thank you. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on June 11th. As a result, there are several items on the agenda tonight. council should have the BZA minutes, and I encourage all applicants who are present to address council during the public portion of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to add something to this. So over the past few weeks, I was speaking to Mr. Kramer in depth about changing codes. That was one of his projects he wanted to tackle, especially after the last BZA meeting. He had a series of codes that he was really working hard on, and we spoke for a couple hours on the phone one day, and then again at the BZA meeting. He was very passionate about updating our codes. He said a lot of our codes are very old, and they needed to be either removed from our building codes and possibly just updated with a few words here and there. So in honor of Mr. Kramer and his heartfelt request, I'm looking to create a committee where we can review some of these codes, go over them. And I talked to Mr. Thomas after the BZA meeting, and we should get with him and try and make this happen. After talking to him and listening to him, he had some really good ideas. So the codes that you may see in your BZA minutes that are listed are basically codes about buffering. So I thought we would tackle those first. And I'm going to look to you, our law director. These would have to go to planning and then come back to to council and then possibly to legislative or the building department for review.
They would, the only requirement is that they have to be reviewed and a recommendation made by planning. It'd be up to council and the president of council to determine whether they should go to any other committees, legislative or building or whatever,
Okay.
depending on what the changes may be. But as I said, the only thing that they have to do is be reviewed and recommended by planning
Okay.
before council takes action.
All right. So then, that would be great. So the codes that are listed currently that he discussed at the last BZA meeting, I would refer to planning, Mr. Balestria, and maybe when you meet again, we'll go over those, and I can tell you some of the things that he talked about those codes, and Mr. Thomas can as well. Okay? Thank you. And now, with that being said, Planning Commission, Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No report. Planning Commission did not meet, and however you want to do it, we'll be on recess as well as council.
Right. So I figured in September we
So
can
we
make that happen.
we'll take that under consideration in the fall.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. We will now move to the public portion of the meeting. Pursuant to city code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. However, please note that this is not an opportunity for debate or slighted comments. If you would like to be heard this evening, please fill out a form located at the table at the public entrance and state your name and address for the record. Speak clearly into the microphone, and I will call each person up individually. It is now 7:15, and I will open up the public portion. I have Mrs. Cynthia Milano. Thank you.
Thank
Just
you.
state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Milano. I live at 1309 Elmwood Road in Mayfield Heights, Ohio.
Thank you. Speak into the microphone, just so they can hear it.
Just pull it closer to you.
Just pull closer to you. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Chair, and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Again, my name is Cynthia Milano. I am a mom, and I'm an advocate for my 28-year-old daughter, Marissa, in the developmental disability community. I'm also a bachelor registered nurse, a certified Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities provider, a certified Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities RN trainer, and I work directly within the developmental disability community throughout Northeast Ohio. And I'm also a provider for my daughter. I would like to talk to you a little bit about accessibility here in Mayfield Heights for the adult developmental disability community. Friday of last week, I took my daughter Marissa, age 28, to the Aquatic Center to assist her in purchasing her season pass for the 2024 year. I explained I would like to know how to have Marissa's independent provider to accompany her while at the pool. I was told that a governess pass would be what the IP can use. At that moment, I was taken back to my favorite movie, The Sound of Music, where Liesl stated to Maria, "I am 16 and I don't need a governess." A governess, as defined by Merriam-Webster, is a woman who cares for and supervises a child, especially in a private household. Wikipedia defines a governess in part as a woman who teaches and trains a child or children in their home. Marissa is neither a child nor would need teaching or training in her home or at the aquatic center. I asked how to get one of the governess passes, and I was told it would be $100 for the provider. I stated that Marissa had 2 providers that may be accompanying her at different times. I was told that it would be $100 per provider. I asked to speak with the director and was told that everyone was preparing for Unity Days and that no one would be able to speak to me. I was also informed that the Gold Lunch was happening at that time. Isn't Unity part of community? According to United Disability Services, around 61 million people, or 1 out of every 4 people in the United States, are living with some sort of disability. People with disabilities are often excluded for social and community functions. Community integration enables persons with disabilities to fully participate in life at the same level as non-disabled individuals. My daughter, along with the other developmentally disabled individuals, should be allowed to be active members in their community without having to pay 3 times more than the average adult who would like to swim at the aquatic center. Marissa requires assistance with all her daily activity skills. The assistance is provided by her Ohio Medicaid and Cuyahoga County waiver in the form of a provider. A provider, either independent or agency, is fully vetted by the state of Ohio in the form of background checks, fingerprinting, first aid, and CPR, along with 8 hours of continuing education. A provider is certified by the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities and given a provider number. This allows the provider to work with the developmental disability individually and bill for their services. Marissa's providers pay taxes on their income for Marissa to the city of Mayfield Heights. Marissa and I would like council to have a discussion about a reasonable accommodation to be considered for adult developmentally disabled individuals excuse me, who require assistance of a provider at all times and would like to utilize the aquatic center. It is disheartening to know that 7 years ago I had the same conversation regarding developmentally disabled adults and their providers, and it's disheartening to know that it has not carried over to the aquatic center. Some of those accommodations can look like under an individual season pass, which Marissa is willing to purchase. Their provider is admitted with proper documentation, either a badge, a provider number, or certification at no charge, as the provider would not be there to enjoy the pool, but to accompany the developmentally disabled individual to participate in their community. I have spoken to Mr. Sean Ward has reached out to me this afternoon. Mr. Ward and I were able to come to an agreement on what that accommodation might look like. He stated with proper ID, providers of DD individuals developmentally disabled individuals would be able to access the pool at no charge. Moving forward, I would like this to be documented on the Aquatic Center's website so that families like myself do not have to go through all of this. My daughter, like all developmentally disabled people, should be able to enjoy the unity in their community while swimming at the Aquatic Center. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Chair, and council members.
Thank you. I'm glad you were able to talk to Mr. Ward. And once we talk as a team here, we'll address it with the person that does all of our updating to our website.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard this evening? That was the only form I had. Oh. Thank you. You can just go over to the podium, okay? This is to Sean Murphy? Tayshawn, okay. Just state your name and address. Go ahead, yeah.
Turn
just
it on,
hit
hit the button.
It'll turn green
There you
right
go.
there, perfect.
Hi, I'm Tayshawn Murphy. I live on 110 Genesee Avenue. I just want to thank you all for giving this opportunity to speak, and also Jesus. And I just want to state that this is the second time I have received this issue. I have been a resident at Mayfield Heights since 2021. I do not own a issue license, but I will be working at in July. I am 22 years old. Oh, the reasoning behind this, I do have a disability, so I have been using my scooter to get around. It was today at 3:45 p.m. I went into the Krispy Kreme drive-thru to ask for 2 cinnamon rolls. He quoted, "You have to go inside." I shouldn't have to go inside if I don't have to. We have a freedom of right and a freedom of speech. And if there's no legal sign stating no scooter or bikes allowed entering this drive point. This happened a while back at McDonald's. This was not the first encounter, and I found that very strange because the Burger King allowed me, but the other franchises wouldn't allow me, which I found very strange, and I would like that issue fixed immediately. And I also stated that if this was a serious matter, then the signs should be up. Other than that, allow other scooter owners and bike owners to cross this point, ages 21 plus and up. I feel like scooters and bikes should have the same privileges as cars going into the drive-thru just to get food.
Thank you. I just have I ask a question to you or to Mr. Thomas. During our opening up our laws to the drive-throughs, can you see if there's anything that would, stating in there that it has to be a vehicle? Can you just look into it for us? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard this evening? Okay. I will close the public portion. It is 7:25. Moving to resolution number 2024-34, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2024-34, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Thomas Zepp, 1196 Elmwood Road, a variance to construct an addition to the existing garage on the property, Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 861-11-021, that would make the garage larger in area than that allowed by the codified ordinances. First reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
second by Mr. Balestrea. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Ms. Talbot. The BZA approved this variance request by a 5-0 vote. All members of council should have received the BZA minutes. I will look to Mrs. Sabetta if there's anything further you would like to add.
Thank you. The applicant requests an extension on the back of his detached garage, 18 by 32, 576 square feet, added to an existing 624 square foot garage, equaling 1,200 square feet. The maximum size allowed is 1,000 square feet, making this a 200 square foot variance. The property lot size is 50 by 250. There is no shed on the property. A next-door neighbor wrote a letter stating that they have no issue with the build. Applicant states that they have a 16-year-old son moving in. They need storage for recreation vehicles, bicycles. They are anticipating another car and its accessories. And they would like an area with shelves and a bench and a workshop. There was a unanimous recommendation to approve. There is ample room on the lot, a practical difficulty in use of the property. All 5 members were present.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any questions about this resolution from council? Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this resolution has been approved. Moving to resolution number 2024-35, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2024-35, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Michael Ager, 1748 Roselawn Road, a variance to construct a wooden retaining wall along the rear property line, Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 863-09-053. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria,
Second.
second by Mr. Minor. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
second by Mr. Minor. This was passed by the BZA by a 5-0 vote. There was a provision made for passing this resolution that our city engineer approve the applicant's drawings of the current drainage issue that is on his property. I did speak to Mr. Chuney this morning. He did have a time to look over the drawings, and he feels the council can move forward with this. I know, Mrs. Sabetta, you probably have more of a detailed report. But I also want to say I received correspondence today from a resident at 1748 Roselawn Road requesting, stating that he is fine with the retaining wall that he wants to build to the property line, and he just wanted to let us know that he feels this would do no harm to his property. Okay. Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The applicant requests to install a 2-foot wood retaining wall on the rear property line. The next-door neighbor, 1748, wrote a letter with no objections for the applicant. The applicant states a pool was installed and grade was significantly altered by previous owner. Slope from the pool to the property line is a wetland, unusable. Applicant would like to utilize space and keep privacy. The neighbor behind is burdened with water damage. There's a condition attached to the recommendation. It is subject to approval by the city engineer for stormwater drainage. Again, a unanimous recommendation to approve the practical difficulty in the use of the property, and all members were present.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions? Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2024-35 has been approved. We will now move to resolution number 2024-36. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2024-36, a resolution authorizing a member community cost share agreement by and between the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and the City of Mayfield Heights for the city's MS4 support project. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved?
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, and second
Second.
by Mr. Balestria. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes?
Ms. Tolbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
I have
Moved by Mr. Mano.
questions.
You can, let's get through this during discussion, okay? Mr. Mano, is moved and second by Mr. Balestria. You can go ahead and ask your question, and I can go ahead and discuss it afterwards. Go ahead.
Questions I have on this one, I wondered, it said 16.5 annually, so are we approving just for 1 year, or are we approving going forward every year? I wasn't clear on that.
It's a yearly fee.
Pardon me?
Yearly. Mr.
The agreement is for 1 year.
It's for only 1 year?
Yes.
But it's
It's a
intent.
continuing requirement to do the MS4, but the agreement itself that is before council is for 1 year at that rate. Next year would be a different agreement and maybe a different rate.
Okay. Can somebody explain to me, because I still want to understand how this cost sharing works? I've read, a number of documents, so I'm picking up pieces, but I don't really have good context on how this cost sharing works. Can somebody explain that?
Mr. Chuney's on his way up.
Yes, good evening. This is a cost-sharing agreement with the Northeastern Ohio Regional Sewer District. Every resident and business in the city of Mayfield Heights pays a stormwater fee to the Northeastern Ohio Regional Sewer District. All the communities got together when the sewer district approached them with this stormwater fee, and they said they wanted some of the money to come back directly to the city. So 25% of everything they collect each year comes back to Mayfield Heights. They keep it in a pot, and you have to apply to them to get the money, because they have to make sure you're spending it on stormwater-related items. This is obviously a stormwater-related item. So that's, and it was a yearly agreement with the Cuyahoga County Soil and Water, so we would have to apply again next year to get reimbursed again. Every year we can apply, the money sits there for us. We have over $800,000 in our account
Okay.
that sewer district's holding. We get about $225,000 every year put into that account. And then we used some at the pool last year with some of the drainage. This year we're using this, and then the next item on the agenda. So in order to get the money, though, they control it, they have it, and you have to pass this agreement, and you have to apply for it, and they have to make sure you're using it properly. That's why they hold the money, they don't just give it to you, so.
Right. And they reimburse 100%?
It's 100%, that is correct.
Okay, so it's, okay.
Our fee for Cuyahoga Soil and Water, I think it was $16,500.
Right.
And it is reimbursable, I know Dana's already paid it, now we can get it back, yeah.
So we pay up front and they reimburse? if-
Exactly, it's always
After we
reimbursable.
apply, after we apply?
Yeah, right.
Okay, I just
Again,
wanted
if it's
to-
approved.
Yes, I just want to understand process. Thank you.
Mr. Chuney, do they have a list of the things that they approve? Like all the items that they would give you the money back?
It's all stormwater-related activities. I mean, we could even, well, we have a purchase of some equipment next. I know other cities have bought street sweepers, because that cleans the gutters and keeps that sediment out of the stormwater. There's a number of items that, as long as it's stormwater related, they pretty much say, yes, it's your money. Okay. They just want to make sure, you're not building a building with it or something, right? So.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Balestria.
Yeah, we had discussed part of the cost-sharing monies at Public Works meeting as well. tapping into that for some sewer improvements we may need in the city next year, tapping into that 800,000. And also keep in mind that with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, we can borrow ahead on monies too if necessary. You know, as a year or two in advance, right, Joe? Or is it up to
Several
three?
cities have done that. They
Yeah.
will even loan you money that's above what you're in your account, and then you obviously.
Yeah, so if we
get it
know we're
back.
getting 225,000 a year, we can borrow 2026's money or ahead of time if, you know, there was a shortfall and we really had an emergency in the city. So just keep that in mind as well.
And I know you missed the meeting, but what we talked about at the meeting was we have several storm sewer projects we're going to need to do after this dye testing, when we found out what's going on. Some of it's in public right away. So we want to use the cost-sharing dollars, but we also, they have grants available too for stormwater-related projects. So we're going to do both. We're going to apply for more money and then use ours as leverage. But it is available for us to use. Again, we have to apply.
Thank you for explaining that to us.
Madam
Appreciate it. Mr. DeJohn.
Mr. June, can you tell me, explain the correlation between this money and the Bobcat on the next agenda item?
It's, as Mr. Brunello would tell you, he's applying for it for his guys to use for sewer repairs. He needs
Can
a
we
new
wait?
piece of equipment to do sewer repairs.
But doesn't-
Some of those are stormwater related, yeah.
But doesn't the sewer district do the sewer repairs?
Not all of them. Right. We have the counties doing some of ours as well, but Chuck could explain it better than I can, but it is written up as it's related to storm sewer repairs. And it just needs a digger you know, to excavate so he can get in there and do his repairs. You do catch basin repairs too, right? Yeah. And catch basins are part of the stormwater system, so even that, he needs to be able to excavate.
That was it in a nutshell. So this machine is going to be used for, we do multiple catch basin repairs throughout the city. This will make the job a little bit more efficient for us to do these repairs. Right now, we're using a backhoe, which is a way bigger machine. And with this available funds, it just made the most sense to purchase this Bobcat to make the job a little more efficient for our guys to work. In addition, we can use it for multiple things throughout the city as well, so not just catch basin repair.
I have a question. What's the shelf life of that piece of equipment?
Oh, geez, 25 years. I mean, if it's maintained and taken care of like we do with all our other machinery, it can go, minimum 20 years, if not a little bit longer for sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you both. All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin.
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this resolution has been adopted. Resolution number 2024-37, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2024-37, a resolution authorizing a member community cost share agreement by and between the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and the City of Mayfield Heights for the city's Bobcat compact excavator purchase project. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved
Second.
by Mrs. Sabetta, second by Ms. Tobin. Also, in response to the district's request for the MCIP proposals, the city submitted an application for the Bobcat compact excavator purchase. You just heard from Mr. Brunello. Are there any further questions from council? Okay, great. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this resolution has been approved. Resolution number 2024-38, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2024-38, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Clark Equipment Company, DBA Bobcat Company, for the purchase of a mini excavator for use by the Mayfield Heights Service Department and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, second
Second.
by Ms. Talbin. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria and second by Mr. Minor. Clark Equipment Company, also known as the Bobcat Company, has been awarded the state contract through the Ohio Cooperative Purchasing Program. The Service Department has investigated the potential purchasing of the mini excavator and has received a proposal from Clark Equipment Company to provide the excavator for a total cost of $78,954. Reimbursement for the entire cost would go through the Northeast Ohio Sewer District Community Cost Share Program, which we just heard about. Are there any further questions from council? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This has now been approved, and the city has a new Bobcat. Resolution number 2024-39, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2024-39, a resolution accepting a certain bid for salt and declaring an emergency. The contractor is Morton Salt, Inc. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
second by Mr. DeJohn. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Ms. Tobin,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Minor and second by Mr. DeJohn. I hate to discuss this because I can't stand winter. As done every year, the city solicited bids for rock salt for 2024-25 winter season. Morton Salt was the lowest bidder at $65.84 per ton piled and $55.84 per ton dumped. All of council should have received Mr. Brunello's memo to further explain his recommendation and how we should utilize this company. Does any member of council have any questions? Ms. Talbin?
Yes. I'm curious, the estimate is based on 7,000 tons. So my question is, what if we go over, what if we go under? I mean, are we guaranteeing buying 7,000? I just want to understand. I didn't see anything in there.
Mr. Brunello?
Thankfully, we've never approached anywhere near 7,000 tons. So I err on the high side every year when I put this together. So last year, I just did this before I left work today, just because I figured it'd come up. Last year, we used 2,350 tons of salt. So nowhere near. It was a mild winter. I think the year
Yeah.
before, we were right around 3,500 tons. So I kind of took an average of the mild winters versus the non-mild winters, and I put 7,000 has been a pretty safe number. So hopefully we never surpass 7,000. If we get to that point, they'll still deliver the salt for us at the same price that's
Okay,
that's been negotiated, or the bid price.
okay. And we don't have to, even though we say 7,000, we don't have to get
That
7,000.
is correct. We do not.
Okay,
No.
to hold the price.
No, we do not. We've used Morton for many, many years. Every year it seems to flip-flop. It goes from Cargill to Morton,
Right.
Morton to Cargill. So we should have no issues with
Okay.
them again this year.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Are there any further questions? Thank you. All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Ms. Tobin?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. This has been adopted now. Ordinance number 2024-12, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2024-12, an ordinance amending the original appropriations ordinance 2023-30 for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Mayfield Heights, State of Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2024, as previously amended by ordinance 2024-09. Specifically, the transfer and supplemental appropriations of funds in various accounts and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta and second by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Ms. Tobin?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria,
Second.
second by Mr. Minor. As everyone knows, this was recommended to place on first reading last meeting. Mr. Murphy and Mrs. Scully were both not here that evening, so I was just wondering if you wanted to review anything with us, Mr. Murphy?
I have not heard anything from anybody since that meeting, so I have nothing to add.
Okay. So I believe this was, do you want to talk about? This was the cemetery changing?
Yes, I guess it was just if we needed to adjust the cemetery amount for the 2,000. And just wanting to explain that we can still include it in the budget amendment and have it set if the need comes to purchase it later. Just because we appropriate it doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it right now. So depending what that conversation was, if we want to appropriate that 2,000, we can without having to change this ordinance. And just because we approve it as part of the budget does mean I actually have to cut the check if we don't need it later this year.
Okay. Mr. DeJohn, was there anything you've
We're
talked to
gonna,
them?
we're gonna be meeting with all the mayors, either on the 1st or the 2nd. We haven't determined the date yet to discuss this. So
Okay.
the mayors from the 3 communities will be there, along with the board, to
Okay.
discuss this.
So we could,
So we should probably approve it and keep it out there, and if we don't use it, right, we'll put it
it
back
just
in the
sits there,
general fund.
right? Okay. So any questions from council? All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Ms. Tobin?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, this ordinance has been approved. We will now move to ordinance 2024-13. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2024-13, an ordinance amending Chapter 1155 of the codified ordinances of the city entitled Board of Zoning Appeals by amending Section 1155.03D pertaining to witnesses and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta. Second
Second.
by Mr. Minor. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Ms. Tobin?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta. And second by Mr. Mano. At the last BZA meeting, it was deemed necessary to amend Chapter 1155 of the codified ordinance in Section 1155.03D pertaining to witnesses. Mr. Kramer wished to modify the words to must instead of may, and state may compel the attendance of witnesses. And that's just in the code for being on the BZA. So I don't know if everybody's read through that portion, but everything was kind of spelled out for us.
I have a question.
Ms. Talbot?
So in the minutes, it says must and may, but in the resolution, it says must and must.
Hold on one second.
So
Pull
what
that.
are we voting on?
We're
Because,
going, hold on one second.
why is it must and must when it came from the, yeah?
Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, the BZA made that recommendation, and I reviewed it and decided that it would be clearer to make it clear that the chairman must be able to subpoena witnesses when necessary. So rather than, the may, we put in the must, and then when necessary, which is, to my knowledge, never been done. I think I spoke with Mrs. Savetta today, and, subpoenas have never been issued, but the chairman does have that power by state law to issue subpoenas if they need witnesses. So we're just incorporating that into the code.
So it says you must compel the attendance. It's not about subpoenas, but, subpoena. Is that what you're saying? You're compelling them through a
To
subpoena?
attend the meeting to be questioned by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Yes, yeah, you can issue a subpoena to an individual to come to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting and be questioned by the board, if necessary. It's very, very rare. I've done it once in 40-some
But
years.
I guess I'm confused. Why can't it be may? They may or they may not. Why must they?
Well, may is maybe you can, maybe you can't. Must is a direction that you are able to do so.
Able or you have to?
I don't see the distinction.
Well, if I'm able to, I don't have to choose to. If I must, I have to.
You have to,
Okay.
yes. If necessary, the chairman can subpoena.
Okay. I saw the deviation, so I didn't understand
Yeah,
why.
that was after I got a hold of it, and Mrs. Sabetta asked the same question.
Okay.
So I elaborated on that, and I think it makes it more clear.
So you're just using must in both areas instead of may?
Yes.
Is everybody okay with that? Any council questions? Okay. Thank you for the clarification and the questions. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Ms. Tobin.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This ordinance has now been approved. We don't have any motions this evening. At this time, is there any new business or comments from council? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta
Second.
and second by Mr. Minor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. We are now adjourned. See you back in September.